All right, let's get right into it. Uber built an internal AI assistant that was so good, they actually called it near human. So how'd they do it? This is the story of Genie.
So, Uber had this idea for an AI called Genie. It was supposed to be a co-pilot for their on-call engineers, answering urgent questions right there in Slack. Sounds great, right? Well, they turned it on and boom, they hit a huge wall immediately. Turns out, when it came to really critical stuff, we're talking security protocols, privacy policies, Genie's answers just weren't good enough. The experts looked at them and said, whoa, this is incomplete, and some of it is just flat out wrong. You can imagine, that made it way too risky to actually use.
Okay, so let's back up a little. What exactly was Genie supposed to be doing? And why was it such a big deal for them to get this right?
The idea itself was actually pretty brilliant. The goal was for Genie to be this instant expert. It would pull answers from more than 40 really dense, complex policy documents. That way, human engineers wouldn't have to waste time answering the same questions over and over. And the best part? It was all supposed to happen right inside Slack. Super seamless.
So to get this done, Uber started with a pretty common AI method. It's called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or you'll hear this acronym a lot, RAG. And, well, it just didn't work.
Okay, so what is RAG? The easiest way to think about it is like giving an AI an open book test. It gets a whole library of information to check before it gives you an answer. This is really important because it stops the AI from just making stuff up, what people call hallucinating. But here's the catch. The AI still has to be able to read the book correctly.
And that brings us right to the heart of the problem. As Judea Pearl said, the quality of a model depends on the quality of its data. It wasn't that the AI brain was bad, it was the information it was trying to learn from.
And this is where you can really see the problem. Take a look. On the left, you've got a perfectly structured table in a document. Looks clean, right? But on the right, that's what the AI was seeing. It's just a garbled mess of text. The data loader couldn't understand the table structure, so all the connections between rows and columns, all that crucial context, just vanished.
So what happens? When the AI tries to use that messy, out-of-context junk, it spits out answers that are incomplete or worse, dangerously wrong. It's the classic textbook definition of garbage in, garbage out.
All right, so Uber's team had a realization. The solution wasn't to find a fancier AI model. Nope, they had to go back to the source. They needed to build a much better library for the AI to learn from. And their solution was this really smart three-step process. First step, they got rid of the PDFs that were causing all the trouble and moved everything over to Google Docs. Why? To keep the formatting intact. Second, they built their own custom loader that could read that structure perfectly. And then, and this is the really cool part, they actually used another AI to make the data itself smarter.
So what does smarter data even mean? Well, instead of a piece of text just having a basic label like source file, page 5, they loaded it up with useful context. For every little piece of information, they added things like a summary of the entire document it came from, a list of questions that piece of text could answer, and a bunch of keywords. All this extra info, this enriched metadata, made the data fundamentally more searchable and way easier for the AI to actually understand.
Okay, so now they've got this super smart library of information. What's next? Well, this is where it gets even more interesting. Uber built a whole team of specialized AI agents to work together to find the answers.
This whole approach has a name, Agentic RAG, and it's a huge step up. Instead of having one single AI trying to juggle everything, it's like you're giving it a team of expert research assistants. Each one is a specialist with a very specific job to do.
So here's how this AI team actually works in practice. A question comes in from an engineer. First, an agent called the Query Optimizer steps in and rewrites the question to make it super clear. Next, the Source Identifier agent looks at the question and figures out, okay, which of these 40+ documents probably has the answer? Then, a hybrid search agent dives in and pulls out the best bits of info using both keyword and meaning-based search. After that, a post-processor cleans it all up, gets rid of duplicates, and only then, after all that prep work, does the final answer generator AI actually write the response.
So, you have to wonder, after all that effort, rebuilding their entire knowledge base from scratch and creating this whole team of AI agents, did it actually work? Was this Enhanced Agentic RAG system worth it?
Oh yeah, the results were dramatic. We're talking a massive leap in answer quality. It completely changed the game and finally made Genie reliable.
Let's put some numbers on it. they saw a 27% relative increase in what experts considered acceptable answers. Now, 27% might not sound like a giant number, but in this context, it was a huge win. It was the tipping point where the human experts could finally look at Genie's answers and say, okay, we can actually trust this for the important stuff.
And this next number is maybe even more important. They saw a 60% decrease in the AI giving flat-out incorrect advice. I mean, think about that, slashing the number of wrong answers by more than half. That meant the system wasn't just better, it was significantly safer and more dependable for the whole team.
And you know what? Uber isn't done. They're already looking ahead. They want to teach Genie to understand images, not just text. They want it to tackle really complex, multi-step questions. They're even working on giving it the ability to use other tools like a calculator or a search engine. And get this, they're building a self-critique agent whose only job is to review and improve answers before they ever get sent. How cool is that?
You know, this whole journey with Genie really shows us something important about AI. The secret to making it truly smart isn't just about building a bigger model or a bigger brain. It's about giving it a better library to read from and a smarter process for finding information. And that really leaves you with the big question, doesn't it? If this method can master all of a company's complex internal knowledge, what's to stop it from mastering just about any subject? It really feels like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.